Well, all right. Welcome to Teague's Take. This edition on a Wednesday night. Me and JT do apologize for the tardiness of starting the show. If you're watching it on YouTube, it's really my fault. It's not his. It's just you got two guys that work and have jobs. They're trying to get here on time and all this. And I was really, really late today because I had a couple meetings at the school that would force me to get in late. So I do apologize, but thank you so much for sticking with us and staying in because we got a great, great episode tonight with some hard hitting Alabama guests tonight. So before we get going, please remember subscribe to our channel, YouTube channel, if you're listening to it on your podcast, in your car, in your headphones, on the plane, or whatever you're doing. Thank you very much. But go ahead, you might want to see us sometime too, because we some handsome dudes, man, and we like to, you know, every now and then cut our hair, dye our beard, whatever it is, and have a good time with that. Lots of great things happening, man, just with the Teagues along. But we got to talk about Alabama football again today. What is the state of the program in? So we do have two guests coming on the show, so we need you to stick with us all the way through. Uh, Up first, though, I got a gentleman that I'm really excited to listen to, JT, because this guy's been covering uh, the SEC for a long time, specifically the University of Alabama in our football program. He's
And
doing
I'm
great
pretty
work.
sure he'll have to correct me, but I'm pretty sure he was writing for the Athletic for a little bit. So I was reading a lot of his articles all the time,
Yeah, so
or at least
he's a
Bleacher Report
veteran.
somewhere.
Yeah, he's a veteran of it, and we'll make sure he tells us everything about it. But I think he has so many interesting pieces, but just not just as a reporter and a writer and all that, but being involved with um, NIL and how things are really structured there. That could be, we probably won't have enough time to talk to him about everything. Um, but if you guys, hopefully, you follow him on Twitter and all of his social media pieces. But let's go ahead and bring in Aaron Suttles, the director of content for Yea Alabama. That's YEA, right? You can find him on their website as well. YEA hyphen Alabama.com, I believe it is. Um, Pretty cool kind of website. There's some shirts on there that I want to buy. I actually went in there. I know he's probably saying click on the donate button and that kind of thing. But welcome, Aaron. Thank you for taking a little bit of time to come hang
Yes,
out with us.
my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about why don't you tell us about your career? JT said that you might have been writing with some other folks beforehand. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I started off with the Tuscaloosa News in college, and worked my way through college. I was going to school full time at the University of Alabama, and then worked covering high school football at the Tuscaloosa News. Worked my way up there to eventually start covering Alabama football, and then got an opportunity to do some radio for a couple years, and then I worked for the Athletic for a few years, and now the opportunity to affiliate, a little more closely with the university. We have two little boys now, and so just quality of life for my family, being more affiliated with the University of Alabama while still being able to use my talents to help today's student athletes through NIL was too good an opportunity to pass up.
That's pretty awesome. How old are your kids, if you don't mind me asking?
So Grayson, he'll be 3 next month, and then we have a 7-month-old named Wakefield.
Uh-oh.
No.
You and JT about the same over here. Well, we're wishing you the best with that, and thank you for taking some time to come on. So I did, you know, uh, I need to learn more about Yea Alabama before we get into talking,
Yeah.
uh, actual football stuff or whatnot. Can you tell us a little bit? Because people don't know what that is, particularly if they're not Alabama fans. We do have a lot of listeners
Yeah.
like Joan Hart who popped in. Thank you, Mrs. Hart, for being in today. Can you kind of tell us a little bit more about Yea Alabama?
Yeah, I think most people are sort of not intimidated, but I think we haven't done a great job of educating the common fan of NIL. What makes it so difficult is NIL is different in every state because they're governed by each individual state's laws and the way those laws are written. So here in Alabama, the University of Alabama and Auburn University had a great deal of input of writing the state's NIL law. So the University of Alabama took its time in sort of building an NIL program that fit what they wanted to do. So we at Yea Alabama, 100% of the donations that come through privately or people that subscribe to the website, 100% of that unequivocally goes to the student athlete. There's no administrative costs that go to me or any people that I work with. It 100% goes to the student athlete, and so we're sort of funded through a different vehicle. So that's one thing that I'm very proud of, is that if we ask you to subscribe or you want to donate, that 100% of those funds are going to the student athlete. So you know, Alabama has never wanted to be out front in NIL as a university, as an athletic department. They want to provide a quality of life for their student athletes, and I think that's what Coach Saban has always pushed, for better quality of life for the student athletes. But they're never going to be setting the market. You know, you see some of these numbers from these different programs that they're throwing out. I believe there was a young man that was committed to Florida at one point, and the number was 13 million, and we all saw how that fell through, and he ends up at Arizona State. Alabama does not seek to be set the market in terms of paying for players, quote unquote. But we do facilitate deals for our players. You know, last year, Bryce Young was the only player in the country that had 2 national deals. Um, Will Anderson had some national deals, so we help facilitate them able to capitalize on their name, image, and likeness. Which, George, you can tell people better than I can the opportunities that you get for playing for a marquee brand like Alabama.
Yes.
So Nick Saban's always trying to help his players build their own brand and earn their own money that way. But the reality of college athletics is NIL. It's going to take a little bit to get student athletes on campus this day, and so Yea Alabama sort of facilitates on both ends of that spectrum.
Okay. So when you say you got to subscribe, or that you can contribute, what are you subscribing to? What are you getting if you
I think
you
most
know?
people, when they think of things being funded at an athletic department, they think of big money boosters, right? The people that pay for the stadium upgrades or for new basketball arena or new weight room. And those people have certainly always done their fair share, and they're doing their fair share in NIL. What we wanted to do is also give the common fan an opportunity. You may not have $50,000 that you can give to an athletic department, but you can give $18 a month, or you can give as much as you can give. We have different tier levels, and with those levels of membership, there are different opportunities. You know, we had a fan day during fall camp where we allowed an autograph sessions that was just for our members, and based on your level of membership is where you were sort of slotted in line. We're going to have some opportunities with basketball and some great experiences. You know, we've talked about doing experience being what a recruit goes through an official visit for Alabama. So doing some of those experience for our members, and then also just content of getting to know our players, their personality, and their stories. So we're providing that as well. And we do a weekly show we call Half Hour Huddle, where we feature a different student athlete every week, and it's an opportunity for our members to ask them questions. They submit questions to us, we ask it of the student athlete. So getting some opportunities to sort of peek behind the helmet, behind the basketball jersey, behind the softball, baseball diamond, getting a chance to know these great student athletes. Because a lot of times now, because the media, the way it works, is the media sort of kept at bay a little bit. So getting to know these student athletes, not like when you were there, when the media could just come to Bryant Hall and interview you. You're getting an opportunity maybe once a month, maybe twice a month for the better players to hear from them. So this is an opportunity for them to learn how media works, especially for the guys that are going to go to the NFL, where media is an obligation that they have to do, is learning how to talk, learning how to project yourself and build your brand. And that's what we're trying to help them do.
Yeah. So this is only help football, or does it help all sports?
Our goal is to help all sports. Certainly, we're realists, and we understand that Alabama football needs to be taken care of, because as the old saying goes, a rising tide lifts all boats, and so goes football, as so goes the rest of the athletic department. So we need a healthy football program, but our goal is obviously to help every student athlete in every sport on campus.
Okay. JT, make sure if you want to jump in at any point in time. I had a few questions for him that I had lined up. So
No,
if I'm
go for
hogging
it.
the show, I
Nope,
apologize.
go for it.
That, so, because this is really interesting to me, because I know that for the university, you like us, we have a scholarship fund as well. It's not done through Yale, Alabama, obviously, because
Yeah.
NIL and all that kind of stuff. But we started a scholarship fund to try to be able to help with an athlete. and things of that nature at the school as well. So there's a lot of different ways to give, but this is obviously something we need to be, we as in the university and other schools, you got to kind of be involved in this if you're going to continue to compete and try to grab the best people in all sports. I would imagine football, basketball. What would be the top three? Three? Is there, is
Baseball,
it
maybe.
kind of nice about that? Who comes out? Is football then basketball? I would
Yeah,
assume.
and
Tell me
then
if I'm wrong.
obviously you got a great gymnastics program at the University of Alabama.
Gymnastics.
The softball program has done great things. Baseball,
Women's
uh,
soccer's doing real good too.
yeah, women's soccer, great point. So um,
Everybody's doing good at Alabama, so
it's
whatever.
a great time to be at the capstone, and we're certainly excited. But you're right. I know a lot of people feel a certain way. I mean, you say NIL, and it conjures up certain emotions within people, and a lot of people don't like it, and I completely understand that. That it's changed the way that you grew up watching college sports, and maybe perverted it for you in a certain way. But I'll just say this to you: if we offered you before NIL existed, especially when Alabama was struggling, maybe in the early mid 2000s when Alabama was really struggling, if we had gone to them and said, "Listen, I can guarantee you a top five football program every year if you made a $200 donation a year." Every person in the state of Alabama would have given, and they would have been glad to do it. But you throw NIL in there, and people start. It just brings up a certain emotion. But what we're trying to do is educate and say, look, you said it exactly, George. If you want to win, and you want to win at this level, this is the current landscape. This is the current environment. Like I said, we're not trying to set the market at Alabama. We're just trying to be competitive because that's all Nick Saban needs. If you give him an in with a student athlete and you make it close where it's a level playing field with him getting a student athlete that he's recruiting, he's going to win a majority of those battles. And that's what we're trying to do is keep Alabama on that level playing field.
Well, can you add this to it, please, for me? That back pay, man. I need
I
some
knew that was
NIL back
coming.
from the day.
Hey, trust me,
Put a little fun over there too, just in case somebody want to give to the
I,
92
you know, you,
championship team.
you
So
talk to former student athletes, and that's the first thing they say. And I completely get it because the student athletes, I don't think the majority of fans see me on Saturday afternoons and Saturday nights. They see the performance on the field. They have no real concept of the sacrifice that student athletes make. And now they certainly get a lot for it, and in today's NIL certainly. But the sweat, the blood, the tears, the injuries that they fought through, the days and months and years of their life they dedicate to their craft to get to that point to even be recruited, and then to get to the level to be at a place like Alabama. I, if we had it available, I would make a big push for every former student athlete to get it.
okay, so tell us, this will be the last kind of little piece on this. So if you subscribe, so if you go to the website, did I say it right? Yea-Alabama.com,
Correct.
and you subscribe to this because you've done so many things with writing. When you say content creator, what do you mean by that? Layman term, right, Lee? I'm thinking you're making videos, you're writing articles, you're doing stuff, or is it something else? What
No,
does that mean?
so we do I mentioned our half-hour huddle show that we do. It's a 30-minute stream just like this that we do. I create some videos. I write some articles. We're going to have our podcast studio available here in a couple of weeks. So we're going to start allowing student athletes to do podcasts and make that available. So any type of content that can feature the student athlete is our goal of what we're trying to create.
Okay, that makes sense. So if people want to read, or do you do things where someone who's not in Yale, Alabama could get your opinion and hear things? Is there something they can do, or are you really behind the wall where you got to
So
subscribe to see what
yeah,
Aaron Suttles writes
a
on?
little both. We've made our half-hour huddle show, which is sort of our showcase. We've had that for free on social media for the last month. A lot of the stuff that I write is for our members behind. And if we have a really cool feature, we want to reward our members and put that behind a paywall. Because at the end of the day, all we're trying to do is have as big a war chest as we can for the athletic program department. And so we're trying to break some habits. People are used to clicking on things and a lot of times getting that article for free, but we're trying to make a way for the average fan to donate. And we understand that not everyone is blessed financially enough to write a huge check, but maybe like I've always sort of likened it to a church offering plate. Not everybody can give $1,000 a week, but you might have $2 you can give. And we don't want anyone to go into a financial hardship giving to NIL. But if you care about Alabama winning and you have that financial wherewithal, we certainly would appreciate it. And there's different levels of membership depending on the health of your financial situation. But we would certainly appreciate anyone taking a look at the website as you're showing now. And if you have any questions, they can always reach out to me. My contact information is readily available online and on the website.
Okay. Well, we do appreciate it. And see, that's why he's a producer, because he know how to do this kind of stuff. I can barely set up the sound and all this kind of stuff, but it is awesome. It is good to look around. There is some clothes on there, like I said, where you can
Oh
Yeah,
buy
yeah, I'll bring it
different
back.
things.
I'll bring it back.
There's some nice shirts on there,
yeah.
and caps and
T-shirts,
cups
hats, yeah,
and t-shirts, and there's all kind of things on here.
yeah.
So take a look at it. If you want to support, shoot, might as well. We love our Alabama fans and all of our fans that listen to Teague's Take, but it's kind of cool to be able to see some of this on here. Okay, so with this piece, with you being a little bit closer than the average person, I guess, and stuff, I'll be sensitive to.
Sure.
We're struggling here, right, with our team a little bit. We're winning, but it's just not what people are normally accustomed to. So we have to talk some people off the ledge a little bit.
Yeah.
And so for you, when you're looking at this, let's talk about our quarterbacks just for a little bit if we can. And maybe how it relates to your stuff. Does this make, when you have quarterbacks who are in a competition, even during the season, how does this affect what you're doing, negatively or positively? Does it hurt what we try to do, or does it help?
I think it could go one of two ways. I think Alabama fans first, we need to recognize that, and you guys have probably experienced, they're a little spoiled, George. I mean, they've experienced a lot of success for a decade and a half now,
Well,
and
and
especially late, offensively, it's looked a certain way. There was a period of time where I think Alabama fans prided themselves on your championship team, where we don't have to be elite offensively, but we need to be elite defensively, and we can run the ball. And I think for a long, long time, even the beginning of the Saban era, that's the way those teams were built. We're going to play great defense. We're going to run the football. And then, the game sort of changed, the hurry up, no huddle, the spread, and Alabama embraced that. They bring in Lane Kiffin. And all of a sudden, the quarterback play at Alabama goes off the charts. You got 4 starters right now in the NFL. And so fans got used to that. That sort of style is addicting. And the way it's aesthetically pleasing to watch an offense go up and down the field. So I think that we need to recognize, one, they're a little spoiled, but two, this team has some issues, and it makes it hard to go from what we've seen the last 2 years to this, to see quarterbacks struggle, to be heading into the 4th game of the season, still looking for an answer at quarterback, heading into that as 4th week of the season with an offensive line that's allowing a lot of pressure on its quarterbacks, with running backs not picking up blitzes correctly. So I think there are some issues offensively that they're going to have to work through. I think the positive to look for this week is, okay, Nick Saban has taken all the drama out of it. It's going to be Jalen Milroe going forward. I think that will help Tommy Rees, the offensive coordinator. And I think it's up to Tommy to help Jalen, to accentuate the things that he does well. Get the ball out of his hands quickly. Jalen does not thrive in reading defenses and making intermediate throws. So beyond the first read, have a plan for him. Make the throws easy. He throws a really good deep ball. I think we've all seen that. Jalen Milroe throws a good deep ball. So I think that's there. Utilize the wide receiver screens. Utilize the running backs in the screen game, and then build enough stuff around that where you can do what he does positively. We saw a little bit of zone read with Jalen pulling it. His athleticism will certainly help. You would think the offensive line issues and the pressures they've had, but I think one thing that Tommy probably couldn't exactly tailor a game plan at this point, because he didn't know who the starting quarterback was going to be from week to week. Well, now it's established. It's going to be Jalen. So now, look, everybody can be a good coach if the talent level is elite every year. But the sign of a really good coach is to adapt to the talent he has from year to year. And I think it's up to Tommy Rees to help Jalen Milroe be as good as he can be.
Yes, excellent point. And JT, what were you getting ready to say?
yeah, I just wanted to add because I thought about this. We have a coach in our staff that is 22, which means he was born in 2001. So I'm just kind of doing some quick math of like when, how old was I when I can at least remember my perceptions of Alabama? And I would say about 7 or 8, which would have been about 2001 when they weren't very good. And you got kids that currently attend Alabama who would be born in 2004, which means their their earliest memory is probably 2008 if they were there from the beginning, which means they have never actually seen a bad Alabama team
Yeah,
that doesn't exist.
right.
You know, they've seen them lose 3 games in a season one time. They may not have actually seen Alabama lose 10 games in their entire lifetime.
Hold on. Right.
Yeah, I think I think we see that sort of how spoiled they are play out on social media. I think especially on X now, or formerly Twitter,
I
where
refuse to call it X.
I'm with you. I could call it Twitter. People are. Uh, One, I think it's like tremendously unfair for student athletes these days to have to deal with social media. Just any guy with an internet connection can dog cuss them and make them feel like that big after a game. I don't think that's particularly healthy, but that's neither here nor there. But after the Texas game, all they want to talk about is Jalen Milrose not good, not good, and who were they crying for last week when the quarterback
Caleb wrong. Put him back in.
put him back in, put him back in. So it's a matter of perspective. Look, I think Jalen did everything right in that game in South Florida publicly. Supporting his teammates, being a good teammate, and I think Nick Saban even said that went a long way in his decision on how he handled that to make him the starting quarterback. So,
Right.
um, Jalen Monroe's got a lot of talent. It's up to Alabama and the coaching staff to get the most out of it.
All right, and I agree with you. And he hits on a big point here, and this kind of hits me. And I was talking about it on WNSP 105.5 in Mobile this afternoon. If y'all didn't know, I'm a contributor on the Final Drive, doing that show on Wednesday afternoons, where I get to talk about this. And one of the things I brought up.
Hold on.
You just go drop him over me like that?
I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to. He's that's hilarious.
He back in the back room and
I
it get
know.
plopped open.
My
But
bad.
anyway, for y'all listening to the podcast in your car, you really do need to go back and find out what minute this is and come see what just happened. Okay, so what I was saying was I worry about the negativity that was spewed. So we had players, who were very negative, directed at a certain person. You know, I had a little bit of negativity, I can say that, but it was really more. I just thought we should have some more pride and all this kind of stuff. I wasn't really necessarily saying, "Hey, you." So we had a little battle between current players, old players, and younger, older players. Everybody's saying what is really best. When all we're one big frat and we should be behind each other. So we're hearing a lot of negativity about all three of the quarterbacks, right? He can't do this, he can't do that. Do you have, just because of your closeness to it? I don't know if you get to watch practices or really get any information, but is there something good you can tell us about the kids? Not necessarily about the way they play. What what would you say is really happening in that quarterback room with the type of players that they actually are?
Well, I think the tone was actually set after spring. You can judge it. You're being a former player, but if you were a former player and you just went through spring practice, where a lot of times that's the first impressions, where that depth chart is starting to get built, that the coaches are starting to identify, okay, this players can help us. And then for that position, or for the quarterbacks, the immediate thing they got after that was Alabama going into the portal and getting the transfer quarterback. So that sort of set the tone for that room of, okay, they're looking to upgrade. Now, what I can say positive from that is that might have been enough for some student athletes to transfer out, especially at quarterback. If I look at it, okay, you're trying to replace me, you're trying to better deal me. I'm leaving, but both of those guys stayed. Ty Simpson stayed, Jalen Milrow stayed after essentially being not quote unquote told, but through actions being told that you're not good enough. But both of those guys stayed. So I think that says a lot about their competitive character. that they would
Yeah.
choose to stay because a lot of times, especially at that position, no position transfers like quarterback in college football. And so for both of those guys, I think that speaks well of both of them. I think it speaks well to Jalen after being benched. There's some rumors about how he handled it in practice that week, and maybe he did, maybe he didn't pout. I'll leave that up to Jalen or Coach Saban if they want to address that. But at least during the game, we saw Jalen Milrow supporting his guys, his quarterbacks, pumping them up, talking to them, being their cheerleader. I think that speaks well of that position group as a room. One, that those guys after the spring didn't leave, and that Jalen, even after being benched, which is embarrassing for a student athlete, for him to handle it as well as he did on game day last week. That's a positive on I think they can build on.
I 100% agree, and let me tell you why I think that. And you hit on something. Thank you for saying that because my NFL career wasn't always uh, on the up and up. I've been traded, I've been cut, a lot of different things. But another thing that happened that most people, particularly in the pros, is if the pros are slick, right? Because they know that they can bring a DB up to practice. It seemed like they always would bring in people that they would pretend like they were looking at, whether they wanted to sign them or not, and kind of be like, "Hey, we're always looking as players. Like, who is that? Oh, those they got like 6 defensive backs out there running, checking their 40." And as an athlete, you're going,
Right.
you know, all safeties. Well, what are you trying to say here? So you got you can get pissed as an athlete and say, "Hey, they're trying to move me out," or you can try to up your game. And so I'm saying personally for me, and I think it's the same for Jed. It was like, okay, well, I got something I need to prove. I can show you, right? And I think that's where his mindset is. Yeah, no, I got this. I can do this. I got a little bit of work. He's gonna watch some extra film, do something, be a little more emotional. And some of my words directly to Jalen is, man, just show everybody what you got, man. You hit it too with Tommy Reese. Give him an opportunity to show what he is. Put him in the best position to be able to win the football game or
Yeah.
to be the most successful player that he can be, whatever that means. However, you got to design the offense so that he can be successful. I was fortunate that I had coaches that would tell me, hey, you know what? You better do this on special teams or you're out here. You ain't going to do it. No matter what you're thinking about that interception or whatever. If you ain't running down on kickoff,
Yeah,
that's how you go get it done.
I'll share a story with you. I don't look. I don't think any of us knows what's going to play out with Jalen the rest of the season. He could turn it around and manage this offense, and defense plays well. The offensive line finds itself. They start being able to consistently run the ball. This team could be pretty good, but I don't know. But I'll say this about Jalen: after we didn't know they were going to bring him up. After when I say bring him up into the media room after Middle Tennessee State, and they did. And that said something to me. Okay, they trust him enough, especially Nick Saban, his program. If they trust you enough to put in front of a camera, that says something about you. But it's one thing to do it after you win and you play well. They brought him up after Texas, and a lot of players after a loss will fight not to go up to talk to the media. It's not particularly fun around Alabama after a loss, and they asked Jalen to come up, and he came up, and he didn't duck any questions, and he accepted his responsibility about his interceptions. Said he needed to play better. I don't know that he's going to win 10, 11, 12 games this year, but I know something about his character. Guys, that it's easy to be in front of the camera and to do the right thing when things are going well. It's not so easy when you didn't play well and you take ownership of it and responsibility of it in front of a public that you guys know how much attention around Alabama football. He knew the heat he was going to take, and he instead of begging out of it, he accepted that responsibility of being one of the team leaders, and he came up to the media, and that said something about his character to me. So, there's like I said, there was some rumors about how he handled being benched during the practice last week, and who knows if those are true or not? Those are floating out there, but he at least rebounded well on game day, did the right thing for his teammates, and so he's a pretty mature kid, and I think for the most part he's done the right things during his career at Alabama.
Yes, sir. Well, Aaron, we want to say we appreciate you and doing this stuff. So before we let you go, why don't you tell us again how can people find you on social media and give them the website one more time?
So if you call it X or Twitter, I'm at Aaron Suttles. And if you want to check out the website, it's Yea yea-alabama.com. Just a reminder, 100% of every penny raised goes back to the student athletes. And like it or hate it, NIL right now is how Alabama is going to remain competitive. The more Alabama has to offer student athletes, the better their programs are going to be. And we certainly appreciate you, George, for giving us opportunity to get our message out tonight.
No, we do appreciate it. Thank you. I look forward to having you on later on in the season again. We'll do it again. Appreciate your insight on everything. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. Well, you have a good night, brother, and thank you. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Man, that's insightful. That is good. I'm glad we were able to have him on, JT. That's a different angle, one we didn't necessarily had before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's go ahead and move into the next person. I guess he's become a big fan of the. I'm a big fan of his because he is an Alabama guy, but he also loves the Dallas Cowboys, who are
Oh
rocking and
well
rolling.
then I guess at the end
5-11.
we can sneak in some Cowboys talk then, huh?
Oh yeah, he'll probably want to do that. But this next gentleman is really become a friend of the family. I've known him for a while. We've been on the. Yeah, I do got on my TV clothes. I got my tie on and stuff, but got to spend some time with him on the cruise, on the boat, and hang out with him and seeing him emceeing and all this kind of stuff. So we got a big celebrity that's coming on. He's the host of the game on 100.9 in Tuscaloosa. You can listen to him all the time. You better find him on Twitter too, because he always got some good stuff. And he even gives you ways that you can be on the show if you give the right kind of comments. He can talk about that stuff a
I
little
need to
bit
figure out
later.
how to do that then so I can get on the show.
Yeah, you can. Maybe he'll tell you about that. So let's go ahead and bring in Mr. Ryan Fowler. Man.
There he is.
Yes.
He's
How
talking,
about
but he ain't
you?
made it to the screen yet. There you go. Now you
Yeah,
uh-oh. Except now I can't actually hear him. Can you hear him?
I hear him.
Oh,
I hear him.
okay.
'Cause
Well then.
I'm checking out his thing in the back there. I see a little 13 over your shoulder.
Oh, here we go.
Brent, and
There
I
he is.
took my wife's art down just for this interview. So I got to put it back for a couple of minutes.
You trying to get me in trouble, or what are you doing?
I mean, I don't really know what this is, but
That looks like a Van Gogh though.
I'm gonna say it's lovely, ma'am. Yeah, you better
right.
hurry up and put that back up.
So my wife only lets me keep up 2 prints at a time from Daniel Moore. And so I've got, which I was a kid, in 1992. And then I've got a couple of small prints, but she tells me if one comes down, another one has got to go up. And so, or one's got to come down. So anyway, that's where we're at. And
Oh yeah.
appreciate you guys
Yeah, appreciate it.
having me on.
Thank you. It's nice meeting you too.
Talking a little Alabama Crimson Tide football. We've had a couple of rough days here in T-Town. We're trying to make heads or tails out of everything that's happened.
Well, that's why you're here. You're supposed to tell
Oh
us.
no! Hey, listen, I've heard all the Alabama fans yell for the last let's say 5 days of Texas, Monday through Friday, and here we are on Wednesday. So 4 hours, 3 days this week has been a little rough. But it's all
So
fun.
what's the temperature there for real in Tuscaloosa? With the guys, I mean, we're here. We probably hear more of the Texas stuff because they actually won the game. But some of the people I've